The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome, everyone. This is Jessica Ramirez of the IAB. I'd like to give everyone a good afternoon, and I'd like to welcome you to this webinar on co-op advertising. My name, again, is Jessica Ramirez, and I'm the Coordinator of Member Services here at the IAB. And before we begin, I'd like to give everyone a couple of housekeeping announcements. Anyone can go ahead and type in the chat box and let us know that you're hearing us loud and clear. Just want to make sure that everyone can get clear audio. Everyone's in mute mode, but you will be free to send your questions or comments via the questions box or the chat feature provided. To avoid interference, please, if you're on the phone, mute your computer or desktop speakers and vice versa, just to avoid any feedback. Also, we will be taking questions during the presentation via the chat feature provided, as I mentioned. And because we have several presenters today, please be sure to let us know who you're asking the question or what presentation you're referring to. Also, a recording of the presentation will be archived and made available on our website, and we will email you with a follow-up and a link to that presentation. Now, before we begin, I'd also like to introduce you to today's presenter at the IAB, Sabrina Alimi. She's our Senior Manager of Industry Initiatives and the Mobile Marketing Center for Excellence. And Sabrina will introduce the topic and the panelists.
Thanks, Jessica. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining the webinar today on the opportunities of co-op advertising in digital space. Earlier in the month, the IAB and the Local Search Association together released an in-depth white paper entitled Co-op Advertising, the Lost Opportunity. The white paper outlines co-op advertising's potential rewards for the interactive ecosystem. The paper also highlights challenges that would need to be overcome in order to take advantage of its merits. Before this white paper, I personally was not really familiar with co-op advertising, especially not in digital. Reading the white paper, learning about the process, and hearing real-life examples at the IAB's last local committee meeting really opened my eyes to the opportunity co-op presents when working with small local businesses. I'm excited to share this experience to an extended audience via this webinar. We were able to bring back all 4 presenters, which is great, and I really appreciate them taking the time, so big thank you to all of them. So today, so the white paper is available up on our website at iab.net/co-op advertising. So definitely encourage everyone to take advantage of that, or to download it and take a look. But today we're going to hear from four different panelists, or presenters. We have Rebecca Lieb, analyst digital advertising media at the Altimeter Group. Rebecca is actually the one who did all the research and wrote the paper. It's a great, really informative white paper. We also have Val Lineski, Director of Operations at Local Search Association. She's going to share a little bit about the process of actually taking advantage of co-op dollars. And we also have Robin Mikes, Senior Manager, Sales Operations, and Brian Brenson, Media Consultant, YB Holdings, LC, formerly AT&T, to really share examples of how they are taking co-op into their sales process and kind of what they're doing to take advantage as well. So with that, I'd like to introduce Rebecca Lieb from Altimeter Group, who will talk a little bit about the research and the paper that she was able to write for us.
Thanks very much, Sabrina. I just want to confirm that everybody can see my screen. Am I live?
Yep, we can see it.
Fantastic. Well, thanks everybody so much for joining. This is a really, really interesting topic. I think that some numbers about co-op advertising, as Sabrina indicated, are going to boggle your mind. And if you have a very low awareness of co-op and you work in digital, I think you will very quickly learn why. We have entitled the white paper and this presentation Digital's Lost Opportunity, but we don't believe it's irretrievably lost. I and some of my fellow panelists are looking at ways to make inroads, and in some cases very successfully, in redirecting co-op dollars online. So in about 20 minutes, I'm going to discuss the value of co-op advertising, try to define what co-op is for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, and then talk about why we believe it to be a missed opportunity, describe some barriers to digital playing a more prominent role in this important market, but also, rather than just grousing about it, begin to look at some potential ways that some of these barriers can be overcome. So as we all know, particularly you IAB members, digital advertising is healthy, robust, and climbing. $31 billion in revenue last year. But to say that pales in comparison to co-op advertising would be a gross understatement. Estimates for co-op vary extraordinarily widely, more than tenfold. Co-op is difficult to quantify, but even at the low end, co-op is estimated to be a $50 billion market worldwide. But less, I'm sorry, I hear somebody speaking. I'm not sure if I'm the only one or if one of the other presenters is perhaps not on mute. And hopefully not everybody else can hear them. So carrying on, an estimated less than 1% of the projected spend in co-op advertising flows into digital channels, whether that's less than 1% of $50 billion or $500 billion is difficult to say, but it is a substantial amount of advertising spend. So what is co-op advertising, and why isn't digital seeing more of it? Co-op is very simply, and at its most fundamental, an agreement between a manufacturer and a retailer to share advertising costs and to create brand awareness. Traditionally, it has been done with local retailers on a local level with broadcast and print advertising. It's a way of getting consumers into stores to buy specific branded products from specific manufacturers, who generally pay about 30 to 50% of the retailer's costs of running the ad, sometimes even up to 100%. And this is critical for small local merchants who ordinarily would not be able to advertise, or who would certainly not be able to advertise at the scale they can without this manufacturer support. So manufacturers get increased exposure at a lower cost and in specific markets. Retailers get brand name product associations. A local Main Street shop might not have a high degree of name recognition, but when you're selling nationally recognized brands, that helps. And of course, agencies and media companies can increase billings, fill ad inventory, and basically profit from this entire business. So it can bolster the entire ecosystem. Now let's talk about why we consider co-op to be a missed opportunity in digital marketing and advertising. As I mentioned a moment ago, co-op is most particularly a local advertising opportunity. And local advertising is climbing significantly, particularly online, and that is to say nothing of mobile marketing. Yet fewer than 1/3 of the manufacturers that we surveyed in co-op marketing guides maintained by the local search association allow co-op into their co-op advertising policies. We looked at 684 different programs and only 35 allowed co-op or some form of co-op digital spend. On this slide you'll see extracted Yamaha's co-op advertising policy as it pertains to digital. basically their entire spectrum of products is exempt from any kind of digital participation with the exception of one very, very small program. And of the companies that do allow digital advertising, most of them are very, very limited in scope and very narrow in terms of what's permitted. Primarily, Co-op is limited to display and search, and it ignores entirely or specifically prohibits email, social media, online coupons, and mobile, all of which present terrific opportunities for the types of local advertising that is really the bread and butter of Co-op. Let's just look at the growth of this online local market very, very quickly. We're seeing extraordinary growth predicted by virtually every trade association and group that monitors local spend. A lot of this group is bolstered by mobile. We're also at the same time seeing a corresponding drop in local advertising for local print and broadcast. I'm sure I don't need to remind you of the broadcast stations with dwindling revenues, the radio stations that are collapsing and or merging, and the local newspapers that have been crumbling across the country. So as local declines in traditional channels, it's one of the hottest growth sectors in digital. These are just, you know, some of the BIA-Kelsey forecasts of the growth of local ad spend, from 21 billion last year to a really healthy and robust $38+ billion just 4 years from now. If you look at the growth of local search and coupons, you're going to also see a correlation. Google announced last year that a full 1/5, 20% of all desktop searches are local, and if you look at mobile, that number doubles to 40%. BIA-Kelsey also makes similar predictions in the rise of local search queries and local search ad revenues. And as print coupons are declining, you know, in no small part because the media that has carried traditional print coupons are also vanishing, we're seeing a surge of popularity in the Groupons and Living Socials and Google offers and Amazon. You know, a whole panoply of players is jumping into group buying sites, and we're seeing a corresponding rise in revenues. More than half of U.S. Internet users have used a daily deal site. Email is another major local advertising and marketing channel. We've seen email you know, with revenues of about $1.5 billion last year. Predicted growth is $2.4 billion in 2016, and this is with virtually zero co-op advertising dollars, although CPMs are extraordinarily low, and local is very, very easy to target, and coupons are also easy to push out over email. So, you know, having looked at some of those numbers, let's look at the value that digital co-op could bring to the entire online advertising sector. Right now, estimated spend in online co-op advertising is about $1.7 billion. Currently, there is an additional $450 million available for online co-op that's left on the table. Retailers don't take advantage of it for a variety of reasons that I'll show you when we discuss some of the barriers to online co-op advertising. So while this entire co-op advertising ecosystem could benefit and all kinds of players, technology vendors, agencies, publishers, the deal providers, search companies, and mobile, not to mention the manufacturers, retailers, and e-tailers who are looking to advertise and sell products on mobile. this is, growth is virtually flat and participation is virtually non-existent in this sector. And this is because of both real and perceived barriers to co-op advertising in the digital sector. So I'd like to just outline what we think some of those are. One of them is the fact that digital is relatively new. Time and time again, as we were interviewing co-op advertising participants from across the ecosystem, they would say, we've seen this happen before. Bob Hauk, who runs a co-op advertising trade association, said 20 years ago people were saying, I don't know how to do radio when it came to co-op, so they weren't doing radio. I spoke to another person in the ad department at the Washington Post who said she lived this in co-op in cable television. When cable came on the landscape, people said, well, we know how to do broadcast. Cable represents a new set of problems and we simply don't want to participate. Co-op isn't that glamorous and it isn't very fast changing. It is not run by your cutting-edge digital agencies. It's very often run by bean counters at manufacturers, and as a result, it is very slow to adapt and change to a changing media environment. People behind these programs aren't looking at the media environment. And that's why we've got resistance to change as the first perceived barrier to online co-op advertising. It tends to very often be run by, I kid you not, accounting departments rather than marketing departments on the manufacturer side, and executed by very, very junior staff, not your, top drawer salespeople. Another problem is that campaigns require pre-approval to run. Because the manufacturers are paying a substantial portion, if not the lion's share, for co-op advertising, they want to see and approve of campaigns, and because small retailers, who are very often the advertising and marketing department as well as CEO, sales clerk, and chief bottle washer, they just don't want to jump these hurdles, or they don't want to jump them in new channels if doing it in print and broadcast is already part of standard operating procedure. It's very difficult to find online corollaries for what's been going on in co-op advertising offline for decades. Coupons aren't clippable. They're very often a QR code or a barcode. Broadcast ads aren't repurposed for online channels. These are time-sensitive broadcasts, not YouTube videos. So how do you translate co-op formats to online, or how do you develop new formats that are going to work in new channels like email or mobile phones? Manufacturers are unwilling to think of ways to support e-commerce programs because they're not geographically limited. I was talking to the owner of a pet supply website who said the very limited participation that they've had with products in terms of co-op advertising has been off the chart successful, but he feels the reason most co-op programs won't touch him is he can't say, well, I'm selling only in the Chicago area, because his pet store is, of course, a national undertaking. And finally, attribution and verification is a problem. One of the ways that co-op programs have traditionally been attributed or verified is tear sheets are mailed into the manufacturer, who then reimburses the retailer for the ad spend, or in the case of broadcast, the broadcaster will send verification that a program ran. Nothing, we all know that online there's no tear sheets. So how do you attribute? Obviously there are ways that you can attribute, but no ways that are acceptable right now to the majority of co-op advertising programs. So this involves filling out claim forms. Virtually all co-op advertising programs require a prior approval form. Screenshots would certainly work for this, as would website URLs or listings of keywords. And of course, invoices for cost, run dates, click-throughs, and number of impressions. All of this is surmountable, but these systems don't yet exist. We believe they can be very easily addressed by technology. So some of the key questions to answer in terms of getting more co-op dollars and manufacturers to agree to flow money online is which of these barriers are real and which are perceived? Where are the real disconnects between perception and perhaps a lack of creativity or forward thinking and reality? And what are the barriers to those programs that do exist already in search and display for moving into newer channels such as social and email and couponing? And let's look at what some of the barriers are that are real and some of the barriers that are perceived. So these are what we believe the actual barriers to be. And the first and foremost is that this digital stuff is complicated. As digital marketers, we all know that. We know that the learning curves are pretty steep and continually changing. There's a lot of knowledge needed to advertise in digital channels, whether you're doing co-op or whether you're doing any other type of online marketing. Lack of infrastructure is very problematic and difficult for we digital marketers to address. The finance department or the sales department is not they're not constituencies that we have relationships with. We're more comfortable dealing with marketing departments as well as their agencies. That is very much not the structure. And there's a lack of guideline and requirements in the co-op advertising industry. There are challenges that never existed in traditional markets, such as how are you going to handle keyword bidding when it can get competitive and advertisers buying keywords in different markets might be competing against one another, particularly when they don't understand the rules of engagement, such as bidding for a keyword in only a specific geo or local area. So even Hewlett-Packard, a company that you would think would be pretty well versed in the rules of engagement for digital marketing, has said that they view this as a problem in co-op advertising. It's not, but it does present some additional complications. So in closing, here are some of our recommendations at Altimeter Group for beginning to overcome some of these barriers. And after me, you're going to hear from people who are in practice actually overcoming these barriers. Some of the other speakers here have lovely examples of actually encouraging co-op dollars to flow online. So one is to increase awareness. Get manufacturers and retailers aware of the benefits of online advertising and how to basically conceive of and execute campaigns. Also to increase awareness on the side of local advertisers, that the co-op dollars are out there and they need to take certain steps to take advantage of this money, including the millions that are on the table today. We also need to provide education. It's difficult. Digital advertising, and by the way, I mean education on both sides of the fence. We in digital are very unaware of co-op, and they're very unaware of us. We need to speak to each other and keep each other informed of how our practices work and how we might be able to work together. And we also need standards and best practices. We need to look at successful online co-op programs. We're about to see some. and create case studies and extend those as part of the education process so that other manufacturers and retailers are encouraged to dip a toe into the water, see how digital can be successful for them, and hopefully reap the benefits as well as reap some of this incredible revenue in the co-op advertising system. We also need to develop technology. Some of the barriers that I mentioned earlier, such as attribution, verification, pre-approval, can be very easily streamlined with technology. There are some companies that are beginning to make inroads in this and create processes and procedures to create workflows that could facilitate not only these approval and verification and metric processes for online co-op advertising, but even for co-op advertising in traditional channels. Publisher initiatives need to change. One of the problems we've had in the recent recession is that publishers are cutting back on the co-op people who work at local print publications, even on the traditional side. So that's withering on the vine rather than extending the responsibilities of these people who know and understand and can deal with co-op onto their digital properties, the properties that are holding a lot of promise in the future. We also need to look at the legacy co-op programs that have expanded into digital, but publishers and industry trade groups remain unaware of them. There's just this huge chasm between co-op and digital, both on the publishing and at the advertising, on the advertising sides, that needs to be bridged. And that is really my piece. I hope that's given you some fundamentals to think about. I will now hand it over to my esteemed co-presenters who are going to show you how they're actually making co-op work in digital despite all of these obstacles and roadblocks. Thank you very much for your time.
Sorry, sorry guys, I was on mute there. This is Sabrina from the IAB. Rebecca, I did have one question that came in. I'd like to see if it's something that you would like to answer, although it may come up in some of the future presentations we have today. The question is, have you seen any use of ad servers or impression trackers as a way to track or report on co-op campaigns? And this question was in relation to kind of your comment about there not being tear sheets in digital.
Yes, there are a couple of technology providers that are, as I said earlier, dipping a toe into this space. They're not widely known. They're only beginning to, and I'm glad to say they are now speaking with the IAB as part of this initiative of the IABs to spread awareness of the lack of co-op advertising. So I think we're just beginning to see the first signs of traction in this industry.
Great, thank you. So now I'm going to switch over to our next presenter. We have Val Lineski, who's the Director of Operations at Local Search Association. So Val, I am unmuting you and making you presenter.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sabrina. And let me make sure we can see my screen here.
Yep, we can see your deck.
Beautiful. Okay.
And Val, you sound a little muffled. Is there any way we can get a clearer, closer sound to you?
Sure. Now, does this help at all?
Yes, a little better.
Okay. Let me try to get as close to the microphone as possible. I'm with the Local Search Association, and also joining me is Robin Mikes and Brian Bresnan from YP, who will be talking to you shortly. The Local Search Association, just to give you a little background, has been a trusted source of co-op advertising programs for over 27 years. Traditionally, we produced a twice-yearly handbook that actually started out that long ago with approximately 100 to 150 programs, and today has over 1,700 brands. In 2007, we created a co-op online product, which is a web-based version of the handbook. The beautiful thing about that product is not only is it updated daily, it's also very searchable. If you're looking for all manufacturers that will co-op tire, you're looking for all manufacturers that will just co-op IYP advertising, you can select what you'd like to search on and end up with a quick report. In 2012, we took the co-op online product and used it to generate the co-op mobile product. Now, LSA also found that there was a gap to fill because co-op seems to be very cyclical. When times get tough and companies start cutting staff, it's often in the co-op area. And Rebecca mentioned that just a bit ago. Then when looking for new ways to boost revenue, co-op gets mentioned again and gets pushed to the front of the line. It's really important to have at least one co-op manager at your company. Robin Likes will discuss what she does at YP to keep the sales reps engaged and educated relative to co-op. Let's face it, everyone has a million products to sell now. It's not just one magazine ad or one IYP ad. You're walking into a customer oftentimes selling bundled packages containing just about everything. In trying to learn what all these products are, you often would overlook co-op and how it would fit in. One of the disconnects that Rebecca also mentioned is the need to keep it top of line, increase that awareness. Reps, like I said, have so much to sell, it's really hard to stay focused and stay current on the new co-op offerings. And manufacturers also need to see what these new types of ads look like. That's been a bit of a barrier because if we traditionally ask someone to give us prior approval on a particular digital type ad, they oftentimes turn us down until we can send them a visual. Once they see what that ad looks like, it's a different story. Another thing that the Local Search Association has done to help the sales reps is created a service bureau. The service bureau provides handbooks, the co-op online product, and the co-op mobile product for all the salespeople. We also provide lead lists for each individual sales rep that contains their clients that reflects all co-op opportunities. So for instance, if you're going out and you know today you're going to a tire dealer, you're following that up with a pool and hot tub store, we would provide you with all the manufacturers, Toyo Tire, Bridgestone, Firestone, etc., that will co-op tires. We'll then give you companies like Aquasil and Caldera Spas and all those companies that co-op in the pool and hot tub area. Another product that we do is called a dealer list. You provide us a zip code, town, state, etc., and we'll provide you with all the certified dealers in that particular area. We also work on prior approvals. Once again, just mentioning that if you have an actual visual to send to the manufacturer, 9 times out of 10, it will get approved. It's not having that visual that hurts us. Another thing we offer is our co-op line. If you happen to be out selling and you're on the road and you want to ask about a new product, all you do is call our 800 line. We will do the research for you. Then we also provide...
Hey Val, it's Sabrina. Sorry to interrupt. Are you going through your deck? We still only see the first page of it.
Yeah, I was. Something.
Sorry.
It's okay. Do you see any change there?
No. Do you have dual monitor going by any chance?
No, I don't.
We are seeing your desktop.
Yeah, we just see the, oh, there you go. I saw that change.
No, I don't know what's happening here.
Is it in presenter mode?
Well, I hope so, right? Because you hear me okay, don't you?
No, yeah, I can hear you. The webinar is fine. I just meant actual PowerPoint.
Yeah, it was. Well, I will continue on, and I can get these to you that you can feel free to pass out. You're probably seeing the final screen now, correct?
Yes, that's correct. And we will absolutely be sending the deck out after this webinar.
Okay. Well, I will just finish up with the Service Bureau. What we do then is provide your folks that go out and your customers with what they need to collect the reimbursement. And Rebecca mentioned that too, that, you know, folks need either click-throughs, impressions, they need a copy of the ad, where it's going to print, how long it's going to appear. We do that for you. Basically, I'm going to turn this over to Robin and to Brian, but I wanted to offer, which you can see this slide, I'm pretty sure, the final slide, is LSA would be glad to conduct a free lead or dealer list trial for you. If you can see the slide and you want to write down my number, you can contact me after the webinar and we'll be sure to do something for you. Robin, I would like to turn it over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you, Val.
Sabrina,
Sabrina,
Robin,
heard.
Just Brian is having trouble getting into GoToWebinar, so he's just, when he's speaking, he can still talk, but when he's speaking, he'll just let you know when to change the deck.
Okay, we can do that, absolutely.
Great, thank you.
All right, are you ready for me to begin?
We are ready, and I can see your deck, so everything's good to go.
Good. This is Robin Mikes. I'm with Sales Operations with YP, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I'm a senior manager with our sales operation team, and Brian Bresnan is one of our account executives, and he has been very successful with Internet co-op sales, and that's why Brian is with us today. And what I'll do is just go over a bit of YP and co-op and our process and what we do to work for our customers to keep our reps engaged with co-op and to keep them educated, because it is a constant job that we do. So with YP, we use co-op with print yellow page ads, inside covers, and let me make that go away, and tip-ons. We use it for direct mail, for targeting and blanket. We also use co-op for our interactive and online, which is for our YP.com, which is for our internet yellow pages, for banners, SEO, and websites. So we use co-op for a lot of different products that we handle with our customers. And let me, oops. No, I don't want to leave the webinar, but it's hiding my stuff. There we go. So a few words about co-op from our reps, because really that's where the bottom line is getting our reps to talk about co-op and getting them comfortable about co-op. One of our reps from California said a local tire dealer has had a co-op account with us for years, but specialty items are new for them. But this year they were able to purchase some specialty items, which were inside covers and tip-ons, by utilizing their co-op dollars. And if it wasn't for their co-op, they would not have increased their presence with us this year. So as our rep said, she found that once co-op is sold and keyed, it has a very high renewal rate as well, year over year. So not only does it help our customers expand their advertising program, but also helps the dollars have a better renewal rate. It sticks better with co-op. One of our North Carolina reps told us that when working with a client early March, they discovered that they had co-op accrual funds left in their account from a tire manufacturer from the previous year. And we had till March 31st to get out the direct mail piece, because with co-op funds, if they don't use them, they lose them. And it was a great opportunity. Our customer was able to get out a really nice direct mail piece, target new residents in the area, and it was 100% reimbursed with co-op dollars from the tire manufacturer. The third example is from a Florida rep who worked with a small family-owned heating and air conditioning company, and she'd worked with them for years. They were a consistent advertiser. What our rep did was started asking them about brands, because that's the first step with co-op, is talking to your customer about brands. She did that and identified that they had 3 different manufacturers that they had co-op dollars with. By utilizing the 3 different manufacturers, she was able to put out 5 direct mail pieces for them. Because as you know, in most cases, manufacturers are not going to co-op when their competitors are in the same ad. So by using digital, by using direct mail, medias that we can change and we can update, we were able to then facilitate this customer utilizing their co-op dollars from the 3 different manufacturers. We have tools that we use to help our reps. We have support, training, and then we work on the focus. The tools that we have local support in each office. It's a subject matter expert. We have regional. So we have about 4 regional supports that do a lot of the documentation our advertisers need, along with LSA. LSA provides documentation to our customers for their co-op reimbursement as well. Locally, we have what we call Co-op Court, and this is a site that our reps can go to and obtain job aids at any time. They have links to LSA so they can go in and do searches for plans themselves. And by the way, you can also use LSA from an iPad, so that's very user-friendly for our reps. We also have the place that our reps need to let us know that they've sold the account with co-op, and that way we ensure that we track it correctly, but more importantly that we get our customers the documentation they need. And as was alluded to earlier, we need to get co-op ad copy pre-approval. And we have a link that takes them to a site, and this particular site will take them to LSA, and LSA will submit the ad copy for them. And how that benefits our reps is instead of having to call 1, 2, 3, 4 times, they just need to submit this, and LSA does that for them. So it's a great level of support for our reps. For tools, we have access for them to bound LSA handbooks with co-op brands on it. And again, they can go online and use the iPad versions. We also have the list of the published co-op plans. And in there are the contacts, plan explanations, and different information about that. And that they can get off the LSA site. We have co-op support material for them that they can go to and access at any time. And we should have co-op corners in each office so they know where to go get forms, they know where to get collateral, what to expect documents for their customers, folders, brochures about co-op, that sort of thing, to make it easy for our reps and our customers to be comfortable with co-op. And then we have rep-friendly sites for them to go to, so they can search for co-op plans, get the ad pre-approval for LSA, and then input it so we can track it for them. We have training on a continual basis. Sales operation provides training. We do on-site training, and we do a lot of webinar training, and a lot of retraining. We train our sales reps, our managers, and our support teams. And in the training, we make sure we cover the WIFM for them, because if they don't see what the value is to them, it's not going to stick. We make sure we ensure what co-op is and clarify that, because reps only sell what they're comfortable with. How to do it, the processes, where to go, and we give them examples so they can see it and talk to them about different tricks that they can use co-op for, different ways. It is a tool, it is support for them for prospecting, and then we do demos on searches for them. We also have on-site continuation trainers that help keep our reps current with co-op updates and enhancements. And finally, we also have company-wide 40/40 web meetings, web trainings to provide co-op updates when there's big updates going on. So as you can see, we have a lot of co-op training going on a regular basis. We also have constant ways of keeping co-op in front of our reps, one of which is on a weekly basis. We put out co-op updates. Here's an example of one. We put out the co-op report so they can see how they're doing and see what the tracking is showing them. We have posters that are put out by LSA that we have put up in our offices on every quarter. We have newsletters that go out. We have the co-op reports, as I mentioned earlier, where we have rankings and recognitions, tracking a lot of information are out there for them. We have the local co-op support. We talk about success stories. We have ideas, co-op news, and we have monthly meetings with our local co-op support. And then we have contests and incentives and rewards and recognitions and ways to promote co-op and to get reps wrapped around it. But really, you know, it's the reps that make the big difference. So we've got a lot of support, we've got a lot of tools, we've got a lot of training, but the reps are the ones that have to get in front of our customers, and those are our most important assets when it comes to co-op. Brian Bresnan, again, is an account executive, and Brian is going to review some of his online sales with us. And Brian, I'm going to tell you which slide is up. How about that?
Sounds good.
All right. The first one is Owens Corning.
Okay. Everybody hear me okay? I'm good?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. My name is Brian Bresnan. Again, I am a sales representative with YP, formerly AT&T Advertising. I've been with the company about 2.5 years now, and I really started implementing co-op into my sales and my accounts a little over a year now. Mainly lack of it. The first year was mainly just due to training and knowledge and things like that. But since then, it's really kind of hit home with me. I'm just going to go over a couple of accounts that I've had some pretty good success with. This first account is a local roofing contractor. I'm based out of Knoxville, Tennessee. And this customer of mine, he actually started off as a new customer, was not spending any money with us at all. My first meeting with him, I first walked into his office and I noticed that he had shingles laying down, you know, kind of propped up against the wall. And the little logo here, if you guys can see it, is the Pink Panther. It's Owens Corning Platinum Preferred Contractor. And I saw that he had, you know, several shingles. So I said to him, is Owens Corning the main brand that you offer? And he said, yes. We got talking about co-op. I asked him, you know, if he's using his co-op dollars on advertising. The customer didn't even know what it is. So pretty much just went into an explanation about it, explained how much co-op dollars that he was able to use towards his advertising. I did come to find out that he did have some dollars available for print, yellow pages. This customer was not a huge believer in print at all. Mainly was his age. I think he was probably late 30s or so. So the younger generation tends to not have a huge impact on the yellow pages. Anyway, once I explained to him what Owens Corning would do, how much they would approve, et cetera, he actually qualified for 100% reimbursement in the yellow pages. So that allotted, you know, his budget. We could roll over his budget and put it towards the internet. So what I did for him was I created several different banner ads for him in several markets. He's a storm chaser, so he likes to cover a lot of the areas, you know, right after a storm. And we put him on some banner ads through YP.com. And as long as we put the Pink Panther Owens Corning Platinum Preferred Contractor logo in there, he was able to get reimbursement. So once I explained how Owens Corning would co-op with them and how we would increase their ROI, this guy was 100% sold. So they did invest their local print yellow pages, and the rest of their budget actually was in, again, multiple markets with YP.com. Next slide, please.
Yes, sir. Okay, the next one's up, about power sport equipment.
Okay. This is one of my customers. He was actually another one in Tennessee. This account, seriously, was probably one of the longest accounts I've ever spent with. Again, this customer was a new customer. I worked with him for about 6 months trying to, I can't tell you how many times I met with him, maybe 7 or 8 times. Usually that's very unlikely. But this guy really wanted to see exactly what he was getting. We had to get a lot of prior approval for this customer. Not every account and not every brand will be that much in detail as this one was. The main reason for this customer was he was very indecisive. He was a really big numbers guy. He wanted to know exactly what he was getting, wanted to see what he was getting for his money. And he was a huge believer in print billboards. And the reason I found this customer, I was actually driving down the interstate, and I saw his billboards off the side of the road. So I pulled over, kind of dropped in, did a cold call, met him, set up an appointment, and I asked him, what was his print billboards doing for him? And he said, well, they're great, for people that are just kind of traveling through the area that come in my store and just kind of browse around, but they don't really convert into any sales. This customer actually sells motorcycles, and he sells ATVs and recreational utility vehicles. So when I showed him that we could do online billboards that would specifically target a target audience that were specifically looking for ATVs and motorcycles, that was not just a billboard on the side of the road that everybody could see. It was more directed toward his target audience. This guy was very, very interested in it. Once I explained that their brand would actually co-op him and cover his online display ads, again, he was pretty much hooked on it. I pretty much had to go into a little bit more numbers and finessing it, tweaking it. It did take a little while to get the approval on this, mainly because this customer, for his brand, he had to put a disclaimer in his ad, and the disclaimer was actually going to take up a huge portion of his online display ad. So we had to put another disclaimer directed onto his website, so it wasn't using up the whole entire ad for him. But again, once without the co-op on the sale, I promise you it wouldn't have happened at all. So he's definitely using his co-op dollars. I believe it's paying for 50% of his of what he signed for. So he's definitely taking advantage of that. Robin, next slide, please.
Heating and cooling.
This again was another one of my customers. Again, started off as a new business, not spending any money at all. He is a heating and cooling contractor in the Tennessee area, and he actually approached me about co-op dollars, which was a first. Most of the times when I go out and I speak to customers, new customers, not a lot of them bring co-op to my attention. But this guy did, so obviously he was using it in other mediums. So again, he was telling me what all brands he carried and wanted to know how specifically we could use them. So the question I asked here was, do you do any, are you interested in any radio, TV, or billboard advertising? And he says, what do you mean? I said, well, the reason I asked this question, we do offer, some voiceover type ads and video ads, but the main thing that this customer is interested in was the online display advertising again, the banner ads. So once I showed him how many impressions he would get in our market and specifically where it would target, we looked at his accrual dollars and got to see how much co-op dollars would apply to this. They actually paid up to 100% again because he had the accrual dollars there. So again, it allotted for a bigger budget for him so he could put his dollars towards something else that we offer him. So it really gave him the most advantage to use his co-op dollars with us. And again, this customer, he's expanding into other markets. This past year was his first year advertising in the local market down here in Knoxville, and after the first year, he had such a big success with it. He's actually trying to expand into other related areas surrounding the Knoxville area. So he's definitely taking advantage of his co-op dollars. And again, the sale would not have happened again if it were not for the co-op dollars available there. Robin, next slide, please.
Great job, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, well that covers it for us. So Samantha, I'm sorry. So IAB, it's back to you guys.
Yep. Thank you so much, Robin and Brian and Val and Rebecca. So that's it for presentation today. So I'd like to open it up for any questions. If there are any questions, please, you can use the question feature in GoToWebinar to send them. I don't have any queued up right now. And while we're giving people a minute to type questions if they have them, I just want to remind everyone that we did record this webinar, so it will be posted up on the IAB website. We also really encourage you to go download our white paper up on our website. And also, we will be following up with an email to all those who attend this webinar with the decks from this presentation. And if you do have any other questions after this webinar, feel free to reach out to me at sabrina@iab.net. So that's SABRINA@iab.net. So I'll give people one more minute or so to see if any questions come through. Oh, there is a question. So 1 second. Oh.
We have a question from a member, but can you let us know who your question is directed to, just for clarification?
So the question's for Brian. Basically, someone else who's familiar with co-op and has heard of more plans that pay for online. So they're kind of wondering, you know, a lot of the comments or a lot of examples you gave started with more print or billboard kind of advertising. Was wondering kind of where you're getting that information and if you're familiar with some of the other ones that have money for digital as well.
I'm sorry, I was having my phone was kind of cutting in and out. Could you repeat that one more time?
Yeah. So the question came from someone else who also is familiar with co-op and digital. And basically they're saying, I'm aware of more plans that pay for online. We're just kind of wondering where your source is. And a lot of your examples started with co-op dollars for more of the traditional advertising. And I guess she wants to see where that there is a lot of plans out there that also include digital.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Each co-op plan has a different, is catered differently. Not all of them are going to be 100% the same. What's really helped me as a sales rep is I use the LSA all the time, and I log in, and I'm able to see what companies and what manufacturers actually offer the co-op. Now, sometimes it'll be very detailed as to what they'll say that'll be on there. Specifically, it might say this customer qualifies up to 50% reimbursement for print yellow pages only. It won't cover anything online. Other manufacturers will put on there, we cover up to 100% reimbursement, up to $2,000, depending on their accrual funds, for internet only, and won't cover the print. So sometimes, if the report that I get does not explain what they offer, there's always a manufacturer contact at the top of the page. Sometimes I've actually called them with the customer, in front of the customer, and we'll conference them and just say, hey, you know, this customer uses this brand, what all does it qualify for? Specifically, I'll tell them exactly what the product is that I'm trying to sell them, to see if they will cover that. So each brand is different. One that actually I just sold last week, is kind of outside the box, was to a pest control company. And they actually co-opt the chemical spray that they use. And this is the first time it's ever happened. I'm usually dealing with service-related contractors and things like that. But again, there's tons of stuff on there on the LSA site. That's not traditional type of an advertiser. So you just got to kind of log in there and check it out. This pest control company that I did have, when I logged into LSA, the brand that they offered was not on there. But just because it's not available does not mean that they don't reimburse co-op. This customer actually brought co-op to my attention and said, hey, I know that for sure 100% they will reimburse us. These are their requirements. These are their guidelines. Boom, boom, boom. Put it all together for them and got prior approval, and it's all done. So again, each brand is catered differently.
Great. Thank you, Brian.
Welcome.
So that's it for the questions that came through. We're also just about at time. We only have like a minute left. So I just want to say again, thank you so much for all the presenters on today's call. Very valuable information and insights from all of you, so we really appreciate that. And again, please download the white paper from our website, IAB website. It's iab.net/co-op advertising. And also, again, this webinar will be posted online, and we will send a follow-up email with the deck. And again, feel free to reach out to me. This is Sabrina from the IAB with any questions or any follow-ups that you may have. So thanks again to everyone for presenting and for attending today's webinar. Have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.